That video and the audio as well, crucial. There's more to the video, there's more to the audio. We'll see it at the trial. But that's what was released publicly. And we knew very little. We had these sketches that didn't make any sense. But now we're hearing from both sides what they think happened here, and it's something completely different. Let's go back to the state now. This is their objection to the defense's motion to suppress. These are the reasons why they believe the evidence, the search was lawful. The search of Richard Allen's home was lawful. They say investigators believed a firearm was involved in the abduction and murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German because of an unspent .40 caliber round was found between the bodies of Abigail and Liberty. That investigators believed a knife was used in the murder of Abigail Williams, that the clothes that Richard Allen described wearing the day he was on the trails matched the description of the man seen on the bridge from the video taken by Libby's phone. That based on this information, investigators prepared a probable cause affidavit with a search warrant for the home of Richard Allen. That makes sense, right? He says he was there, unspent cartridge, he's got guns, he's got knives, he's wearing the same clothes. That should be enough for probable cause. So here's what they seized in part from all of this. A black Sig Sauer P226 .40 caliber handgun, one .40 caliber S&W cartridge, one .40 caliber S&W cartridge from inside the Sig Sauer, 2 magazines containing .40 caliber cartridges, multiple sweatshirts, jackets, hats, gloves, boots, numerous knives, multi-tools, multiple laptops, hard drives, flash drives, memory cards, cell phones, but it's 5 years later. Cutting of a carpeted area underneath the spare tire of the Ford Focus, swabs of the driver lap belt and the driver's shoulder belt of the Ford Focus. Blood, could be blood there. 2 swabs from the passenger side of the carpeted floorboards. Okay, let's bring back in our guests. Alice LaCour, Brett Taylor from the award-winning podcast, The Prosecutors. Make sure you download it. And from the Murder Sheet podcast, you've already downloaded that, Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee. Okay, Anya and Kevin, anything from this search warrant other than the gun linking to this bullet through their testing, is there anything else from that search that we know that's been released publicly that connects Richard Allen to the scene, to the murder, that could be evidence that we expect would be used against him?
As far as we know, the only information that's been released publicly is that gun that they recovered from Richard Allen's residence, which they ballistically link, they say, to a bullet found at the crime scene. And that bullet is absolutely crucial to their case against him because it is the one piece of physical evidence that puts Richard Allen at the crime scene at the time of the murders.
So, Brett, are you shocked, number one, that we're not talking about DNA? We're talking about a bullet that is not used to kill anyone. It's not discharged, but it sort of cycles through the gun. They say they've got an expert that's going to match it. I've heard mixed reviews from people I've spoken to about how compelling that evidence is. What are your thoughts about that evidence versus expectations of a jury, which is a bloody scene, a horrible scene, yet we've got no DNA?
I think one thing I would say is the prosecution's going to have an opportunity to put on a case. We don't know that we have DNA. The prosecution's also under a gag order. And unlike the defense, the prosecution hasn't laid out its entire case in a filing. The defense filing is 135 pages long. They're trying to suppress this gun, and they don't make the argument to suppress it until page 105. They don't cite a case until page 135. Prosecution responds with 8 pages. 8 pages of law and facts. They don't lay out anything. They just go directly at the legal question. So I don't think we can say that we don't have DNA. I don't think we can say what the prosecution has. The defense knows. They're starting to see that discovery. And I think it's interesting as they're seeing that discovery, you don't get a full-throated suppression motion. You get a press release that was designed and successfully did so to inflame the passions of the public and social media.
Let me ask you, Alice, if they had DNA from the scene, would part of what they wanted in the search would have been a, a swab from Richard Allen as well?
Not necessarily, because when you're searching, they can get DNA from multiple places. It's possible they already have a swab from Richard Allen. If they knew that they were going to bring a charging document against Richard Allen when he was arrested, part of the intake process for any defendant is to take a swab. So they may not have wanted to spend that sort of capital in the affidavit when they were looking for something else. So I think that's exactly right, that we don't know whether they already had Richard Allen's DNA. And second of all, if they knew where they were going to bring charges and to arrest him, they knew they were going to be able to get his DNA no matter what.
So Anya and Kevin, any indication about anything? I mean, you've covered this case so in depth, looked at every single document that's been made public. And we know from the beginning, even from how much information was released in trying to catch a killer, that investigators and now prosecutors have released very little.
Yeah, they're definitely playing things close to the vest. And we would just say that, we're just kind of eager to see the back and forth between both sides and sort of see how it plays out. A lot of people in this case have been so quick to say, oh my gosh, it's over, or, the defense is over, the prosecution's over. I mean, we will say we've found one case at least where you did have a unspent round become pretty significant ballistic evidence within the case itself. And so not unheard of for that to be somewhat important.
So Alice down in CrimeCon, right? Talking to everybody. And there were two schools, right? There was the one school that said all of this stuff about Odinism, et cetera, is like way, way, way over the top. Then there was another school of thought that was like, what's going on here? Like, what is going on? What was your take on, and what are your thoughts about all of these allegations, very specific allegations about this so-called Nordic religious white nationalist group that for some reason allegedly murdered two teenage girls who happened to be white?
Look, I'm going to tell you, it is a fascinating story. It got all of us reading a 135-page document, and it grips you. It is a story that absolutely grips you. If it's true, we're all looking behind ourselves. Are there Odinists in our own backyards? So the prosecution did exactly what they meant to do, which is to get their story out there, or at least a story to sow confusion or to point in any direction but their own client. And that's what they're supposed to do. And it's, you can't fault them for wanting to put up a vigorous defense. What I believe the camp of people who had a problem with that really fantastic story was that it came in the wrong vehicle. It came in a Frank's motion hearing document, which is supposed to be about Richard Allen's search warrant, not about the theory of the case by the defense. They absolutely have the opportunity to tell their story, but it comes at a later time before a jury. They wanted to preempt that and start now. Because look, if the first time the rest of us heard about Odinists was at trial, most of us probably would have reacted the way we did on the first page of their motion, which is to laugh and say, what are you talking about? Are they being serious? So they're priming their story for the main stage later on.